paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, that's downright refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. This is what you might call, it's not a special episode. It's not even a very special episode. This is a magical episode. You know why it's a magical episode? I'm joined by my co-host DJ and Cass. And Cass is here to tell you why it's a magical episode. Cass, what's the thing in magic that one might call magical?
Well, recently I've been thinking about those beans. I've been thinking about the card Up the Beanstalk a lot. I've been playing with it a little bit too. I know there are some doubters out there, but let me paint you a picture. Let me weave you a tapestry of the modern format.
I'm a doubter, so let's hear it.
Can we talk about what this card is first? I know what it is. I know exactly what the card
Beans.
is clearly, but like, tell the
Easy.
listeners.
It's a very simple card. It's a very straightforward card.
It's 2-mana enchantment. When it comes into play, you draw a card. And then whenever you play a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you draw another card. So,
this is a blue enchantment, right? Because it's all about that card draw. It draws
Well,
a bunch of cards, so it's...
It's green because when you play big things, it draws you cards. But technically it is blue-green coded because the flavor text is of a blue-green character.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
So let's say you're playing the modern format. You turn 1, play a fetch land, fetch up a triome. Your opponent plays a creature. Who cares? Turn 2, you play Up the Beanstalk. You draw a card. You say go. Your opponent plays like 2 creatures and like an enchantment. Like they just have like a nut draw. Okay.
Let's just so you got scammed. They scammed your entire hand.
We're not talking about Scam, because Scam's like... Up the Beanstalk is also good against Scam, but that's not the thing. They're playing Yawgmoth. They went like turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 like, Strangleroot Guy's second Mana Dork, go. You go turn 3, play a second Up the Beanstalk. And then you play Leyline Binding, draw 2 cards, exile their best thing, Solitude Pitch, draw 2 cards, exile their best thing, say go. They play like, on turn 3, they play like 2 more good things. Okay, I'll Fury Evoke, draw 2. Up the Beanstalk is like fine, and it keeps you doing parity when you're playing all these pitch elementals, but if you ever get 2 of them into play, you just go off. I had a game against Amulet Titan where I played out the One Ring to gain protection from everything, passed the turn. My opponent had like a crazy Amulet turn where they ended with 3 Titans, like 2 untapped Urza Sagas, a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, 2 Valakuts, and like
You're
fetch
dead
lands.
on the
Just
next
kill me on my upkeep.
Yeah.
On my upkeep, he like cracks a fetch land or whatever. I have an Elish... No, I don't have an Elish one to play. Anyways, I have like 3 Up the Beanstalks in play, and I like Leyline Binding, Solitude, and just like, the game is over because I drew 5 extra cards or whatever, and answered everything, and then for my turn, played another copy of the One Ring. There was also the game where I had Up the Beanstalks and Elish Norn going, and that was also unbeatable.
Wait, which Elish Norn? Is that the one from March of the Mabine?
Yeah, it's March of the Mabine, exactly, correct. The 5-mana one. It also draws you a card when you play it, and then makes your Solitude draws you a card and kills 2 things.
I have to say, I was one of the doubters. Not in that I was like, oh, this card's not... Yeah, people are wrong for thinking it's good. It's just, it didn't even resonate with me, right? Like, oh, it's a cool card. That's neat. You draw a card, and that's a neat little limited card if you stuff your deck full of expensive
This
stuff.
is a limited signpost card.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the story spotlight card?
Yeah, and I was like, well, but that's it. And look, I get conceptually that you're pitching elementals to it and you're drawing cards, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to look at it in a larger sense, right? Because, yeah, that's
like a giant beanstalk sense.
Well, yeah. That's card advantage. There's a lot of ways to get card advantage in Modern. Like, Ancestral Vision is legal along with Shardless Agent, yeah?
Right,
like,
but
that's just
it's
a
also
thing
a
that's
cantrip.
true.
The thing about Up the Beanstalk is it's not just this card advantage thing in the late game. It's also just a cantrip on 2. It's a green card that pitches to Endurance, so it smooths out your deck in multiple ways.
Good point.
And it's an enchantment, so Scam can't get rid of it. So if you resolve one of these, and you top deck a single thing that triggers it, you're back from a Scam start.
And that's what I was getting at, is I think in the larger sense of the format, the reason Up the Beanstalk is good, and a million other card advantage engines are not, is specifically because what happens when you play, like, this ties into a big conversation about Modern, but the idea that I've proposed that has been the intent of the Modern Horizons sets with the free spells, the elementals and the forces and all that, is that you wear people out of resources early, and they're allowed to interact early, and people don't just ships pass in the night kind of gameplay. So the natural outcome of that, we've talked about it in the before, how it looks a lot like Legacy used to look, where you do a flurry of actions in the first 1 to 2 to 3 turns, and then you're kind of left with something weird left over. And that's exactly what Scam does, right? It usually wins the game with like a Fury or something, right? That double strikes and just attacks you for a few turns.
Corbin,
so
stop trying to give these people a regular analogy. I've got everyone who listens to this cast is a Naruto or anime fan, right?
Oh God.
Yes. So it's just like any anime battle where both protagonists like fight each other at max speed. They pull out their giant 6 feet tall swords,
Sure.
and then the rubble falls, and then they slowly get up and they're bloodied and beaten, and then they're just fist fighting.
Oh, that's probably about right. You got there. Yeah, they're weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a much better.
You're mad at me, but I'm not wrong.
No, yeah, that's succinct and to the point, actually. But yeah, so so up the beanstalk in that context is very good. It's like getting a sensu bean at that point.
There we go. There's the tie-in.
Now Corbin mentioned Legacy, and Yorion Sky Nomad is legal in Legacy, and not only is Yorion a 5-mana spell, but it also flickers up the beanstalk for even more card advantage. And you know Honorog is out there making some rancid 80-card pile that all it does is draw cards and die. And he's probably going to win some games with it, and you know what? Good for him.
I love it. I don't remember
where Thassa's Oracle. That's a win condition. Drawing cards to death is a win condition.
My boy Fire
He broke
Shoes.
Thassa's Oracle.
Listen, my boy Fire Shoes trying to get people to play Tybalt's Trickery or whatever it is in Modern. Always trying to get people to play that at big tournaments. Love it.
Speaking of Tybalt, you bring to light for a Valky. That's 2 cards off up the beanstalk. Reed Duke in the Modern Super League played a deck that was like bring to lighting Time Warps or something, or chaining Time Warps with up the beanstalk and using Mistveil Planes to win the game eventually.
Oh wow.
We are in a bean world, and you know, I'm just happy to bean along for the ride.
This is all
Happy
fascinating.
to be along for the ride.
These are the
That's what I said.
adaptations to Red Black and Bowmasters and the Ring. Like this is the format adapting to those cards existing, with some really wild strategies that seem like Mistveil Planes. Is that what you said? The loop, yeah, like old Ameria control style loop. This ridiculous slow engine because you can. That's where people grind it out.
I don't even think Up the Beanstalk is the strongest card in Wilds of Eldraine. I think Agatha's Soul Cauldron is. That card's also messed up.
That card.
I had a game where I was using it to kill my Strangleroot Geist to bring it back and then remove the counter on it with Walking Ballista to shoot my opponent. That's just a kill.
I haven't even thought about that card in Modern, and that's kind of disgusting.
You exile a Yawgmoth, like they Fury kill your Yawgmoth.
You can
just
go
exile
get it
all my
with
creatures are
Whir.
Yawgmoth.
You can go get it with Whir of Invention.
You can also just give your Inkmoth Nexus Arcbound Ravager's abilities. It's also a graveyard hate card. It just says exile a card from a graveyard. So you just play it on the play against Murktide, and they just never get Delirium. They never play a Murktide. Eventually, they kill your Yawgmoth with something, and then you just like make all of your creatures Yawgmoths.
That's a bit of a yikes. Not gonna lie.
All right, I have a pop quiz for both of you.
Hot shot.
Brought to you by MTG Stocks.
By speed.
So I went to Wilds of Eldraine, and I filtered out, I sorted by price, so I'm looking at the most expensive cards in the set. I took out all the mythics. What is the most expensive card in Wilds of Eldraine, non-mythic?
Questing Druid.
Questing Druid's like $4 or $5 now, I think.
It is Questing Druid, but only by like 4 cents. Up the Beanstalk is second.
Oh wow.
Questing Druid is on Japanese buy lists for like $7. So that's the only reason I knew that.
Yeah, I wrote about that card last week. It's really good.
That is the Eternal All-Star besides the bean. But like this is also just not necessarily a commentary on how valuable this uncommon is and how in demand it is, but also just like Questing Druid is like the only non-mythic from Wilds of Eldraine that's over $1.
Welcome to 2023 Magic.
The bonus sheet hurts that a lot, though.
And that's what I was going to go into, is like, that's not necessarily like, oh, every other card in the set is bad. It's just, we saw this before with Battle for Zendikar, where the set is Gideon or bust because everyone cracks it for masterpieces. And sets that have these secondary ways to get other non-cards from the set in the set kind of thing, those are the cards that will float the value. Like, the Rhystic Study is still $30 to $40 because it's still in the set, but, like, that's where the value goes, is Rhystic Study, Anointed Procession, Doubling Season. Not Anointed Procession, but, like...
That's the one that isn't,
yeah. But every other rare in this set that has the actual set symbol of Wilds of Eldraine is just, like, $1.
I think it makes it easier to stock standard, is, like, the actual shtick.
It's easier to buy the cards that are relevant as opposed to racking a bunch of stuff and having a bunch of shit. Is that the gist? Do we think? Is that like a reasonable point?
I think it's like if your store wants to host standard events and you want to have everything in standard in stock, it means that your hot list is just like the 10 relevant cards in standard.
Right.
And everything else you just have like 10 copies left because they're bulk rares or whatever, and you buy bulk rares.
Yeah, if I think back to the years I was running a store, opening boxes was not fun. It's obviously the thing that everyone says when, oh, yeah, it's so cool, you can just open a pack whenever you want, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Now that I don't own a store, it is kind of fun to open packs. When I owned a store, horrible.
I've gotten that question a lot because I've had people ask, hey, DJ, do you need people to sort? Do you need people to, like, crack boxes for you and sort Magic cards? And I usually ask them if they would enjoy opening Christmas presents as a full-time job.
Perfect analogy.
Yep.
Especially when, yes, like you don't even get to keep, at least when you own the store, you can like, oh, if you open up something amazing, you can be like, yoink, you know, just keeping this one back for myself or whatever. So there's at least a marginal benefit. But if you're
that's like, not a benefit, that's a bad idea.
And whatever.
The actual shtick, the actual benefit of being an owner is you get to look through the intake box and get right of first refusal to buy cards. Like that's the only thing that's nice. This
is what I mean, right? Like you have your choice of what comes in, etc. Right? That is an actual perk. But if you're just an employee and you just have to do that, gosh, it sounds just painful. It's manual labor and it's really like you gotta squint at cards all day. I don't know. It's not as fun.
It's also
as
worse than ever,
I guess, is the point.
Oh yeah, with all the different product types and if you're manually sorting without a robot, it's rough.
It used to be that you would just crack a pack and you like there's 4 piles and everything. You got a rhythm going.
You just color sort put the rares in a thing, and then all you got to do is split out the ones that are worth putting in the case. Super easy.
Even then, like literally all I was doing before was just separating out like rares and commons and uncommons so that I could triage things that are worth more to put in first. And like now, you know, you open a set booster and there's like a list card, and sometimes there's like a foil, and sometimes there's 2 rares, and so you never get into a rhythm.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Killing the muscle memory is a huge just dagger in productivity.
It just like makes your brain work harder during a long, monotonous task.
Imagine
I'm gonna make you guys' brains work harder during
breaking bulk.
During breaking bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
This is a Innistrad Midnight Hunt Gold Uncommon.
Is this the black-white sacrifice a creature to exile thing? Okay. That's the only card I know from that set.
Is it a werewolf?
It's not a werewolf.
Is it a vampire?
Or a wolf. It's not a vampire.
Is this the Faithless Looting in blue-white?
It is the Faithless Looting in blue-white. It's roughly
Faithless Mending?
Nice, great.
Faithful Mending.
Faithful Mending.
Right.
It's... I don't know who plays it or why or when or how, but I know that
I do.
It's cool. It's
an Aspiring Spike special in Jeskai Phoenix, which recently got preordained, which might be why.
I've definitely seen that card in a number of brews, right? Like if your deck wanted Faithful Saluting before, it's possible that card's better. It's obviously slower, blah blah blah, but like it's got a place.
It's slower, but it's instant.
Yeah, and it's got flash. And well, they both would have had flash. But yeah, anyways, it's cool. It's a cool one for sure.
50 cents is fine.
It's one of those cards that I'm really glad it exists in the modern format because to me, like Faithless Looting was obviously too good, and like Merchant of the Veil is not good enough, and this card kind of exists somewhere in the middle where it's just okay.
As we made a bunch of Bean references, are we doing Goldilocks now?
Sure. Well, I don't think 3 cups of porridge is modern playable, but you go off.
That card's fun though, right?
Yeah, I like bargaining it before I use the last mode. Thinking smart, Watsy. Thinking smart.
It's a pretty fun card. I have not got to play as much of the set as I wanted. I hope to get to play some in Vegas this coming week. Seems like it's. All right, Cass, what are you looking at? Breaking Bulk.
I have a Stronghold green uncommon.
That was a set
Primal Rage?
from too long ago.
I don't know Primal Rage. Oh, no, I do. Primal Rage is like the enchantment. It's not Primal Rage.
Stronghold green uncommon. Overgrowth?
Nope. This is sort of a Breaking Bulk of the week. The card barely qualifies as Breaking Bulk, but...
Jason's normally the one that gets these sets.
I'm not going to lie, I don't know.
Stronghold, is it a sliver?
It is not a sliver.
Is it a beast?
It is not a beast,
That's
I don't
Onslaught
think.
block.
Ever.
I don't know its actual creature type because I believe it's been eroded and the image I have of it up is of the original printing.
F6, what do you got?
It is Spike Feeder.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Spike Feeder's like 65 cents or something market. There's some buy lists around 15 cents, 10 cents. Truly, like, you're picking the bottom of the barrel here. But in true Breaking Bulk of the Week fashion, this card also goes absolutely ape Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
Yeah. Spike
It's just
Feeder,
like a-
Soul Cauldron. Yeah, that sounds like a modern deck.
Also, like, Heliod's been seeing more play because of Soul Cauldron. So, like, I don't know. This card's already worth picking out if you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, and it's probably doubly worth picking out if you think you're going to try and do some degenerate stuff with creatures in the modern format.
Yeah. All right, I've got this one is also on the line, but it's surprisingly I think as far as buy list to market price goes, this one's got to be up there. It's a green common. I'm sorry, a green uncommon from Theros Beyond Death.
Hydra's Growth?
Nope.
Destiny Weaver?
Spinner? Nope.
Spinner.
But no, it's those are the two easy guesses, and it's not them.
Is it the legendary uncommon, like Regatha Called of the Hunt or whatever?
Nope.
I heard a bunch of extra versions. Is it Omen of the Hunt?
Nope. I believe those are. I think that cycle's common.
That makes
This
sense.
this is a non-creature green uncommon.
I think I
It
listed all
was-
the green cards I know from that set.
Got one reprint in Jumpstart, 2022. But that's it. You've seen this card
does it
in
make wolf
Pioneer.
tokens?
It does make wolf tokens.
It's the Nykthos thing.
Wolf
You know
Willow
what card?
Haven.
It's the Utopia Sprawl thing.
You can
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
4
yeah.
mana and sacrifice it to make a wolf.
No, yes, yeah. So yeah, Wolf Willow Haven, 2
Not
mana.
there.
Yeah, 2 mana.
Teamwork.
Your land taps for an additional green, 5 mana. You get a wolf, which no one really does, but it is a devotion thing. That's for sure. But so it's an extremely cheap, like we're talking like 30-40 cents market price card, the 20-cent buy list.
Yeah.
To CK. So
Theros Beyond Death weirdly was not opened as much as people like might have think it was because it kind of came out and then COVID happened and
yeah, it was right.
people kind of
before
stopped
COVID.
caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also a set that I think killed a lot of people's enjoyment in the game.
Yeah.
Really?
It was.
Uro
I mean,
was miserable.
Oh,
we
it was
had-
Uro.
We had 3 months of Oko
You're
and
right.
Throne of Eldraine, and then Uro just like breaks out, rips his shirt off, and
Yeah.
And then
I'm
neither-
Oko now.
And then neither Oko nor Uro were the most egregious mistakes in that calendar year.
Golos.
No, Luris. Luris is the most broken Magic card ever.
Loris. It's just that was the same year. Yep. Or at least
Things
the
have been
same-
better since then, so
Yeah.
let's give credit where it's due. But also, man, that was a rough stretch of time because it was also Hogak right before Oko. It was like Hogak to Luris was like
It was
the misery year.
It was the esports push.
Esports. It was the play design really needs to hire more people push.
Yeah,
sports is bean sports a thing?
I think you're right about that. I do think that those were. I mean, look, that was the time of their quote fire design or whatever, where they were upfront that we want to push things, and they sure did. I forgot.
It's clear now that they've sort of reined it in, like found a balance between making broken things and. Because when was the last time we had a truly egregious mistake?
Well, the One Ring maybe, but that's a supplemental set. I don't know if it really counts. Yeah,
and you could also argue that card landed pretty well. Like 2 of the 3 best modern decks don't even play it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yes, I think it's like we talked about earlier. Maybe it's not like it's not that the card is whatever. It's that the format it completely redefined the format. You know,
right?
But it fit into it, and that's fine. Cards do that. But you're absolutely right on the whole, right? Like there was that one, like, I don't remember if it was a year or a calendar year or a 6-month run or whatever, but maybe 5 or 6 cards got banned, but all of Magic was whatever. It's like the format we had left over after a bunch of bannings was like Fires of Invention, Kinrith bullshit.
Right.
That was terrible too. Yeah. Well, interesting. But what would you prefer? That era of Magic where they go burr on card power, or this era of Magic where they just go burr on card?
This one's awesome. I think this is the most fun Modern's been since like Splinter Twin was legal.
I agree with you on Modern. I was talking more like that's what the company's focus was on then. And now the company's focus is on 85 different product lines. So we get the problems we talked about earlier. It's like, you know.
But we also get people Googling Magic after being gone for 20 years because they saw Final Fantasy in a headline.
Yeah. Look, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here a little bit for the sake of the podcast, but I think we all are in agreement about the growth of the game. And I'm excited for it this weekend, right? We're going to see a year back at Vegas at the World Championship at Magic Con. DJ, do you want to kind of recap, like, basically where we've come from where we were at last? Like, what was the last year when we went into Vegas?
So last year, Vegas was on a very, very short timeline. To my knowledge, ReedPop was given very little lead up and resources to deliver on the product that they were supposed to. And it went, I think, as well as it could have been given the circumstances. It was in a very different location. There were a whole lot of factors there. But it still had a lot of people there. We were still very, very busy, and my expectations are roughly the same, if not slightly higher, for this year. For those who remember last year, it was also the start of the 30th anniversary of Magic, and I believe this is sort of like a 12-month calendar year, and this Vegas is the culmination of the 30th year of Magic. Last year had the 30th anniversary product, the highly controversial pseudo reserved list gold back border $1,000 booster pack thing, and that Las Vegas was when, if you paid for the Black Lotus package, your entry was basically paid for because you could just sell the product that you were given. It was a whole Wild West of 2022, and we'll have to see if they do something similar scale. I don't think they will, but I know that product itself, having aged a year, it's not doing super well. The sealed product itself is still kind of holding firm. It retailed for $1,000, and I believe retail right now is still like $1,200 or $1,300 or so. It floats around that area. It's hard to get above cost if you're actively trying to buy list it. I think buy lists are like $800 and $900 for a box.
You're talking about the product from last year?
I'm talking about the product from last year, the infamous $1,000 booster box.
So
came with 4 packs.
So on TCG Player right now, there's all of 5 listed. The cheapest one being $325. So I don't know what conclusion to draw from that. I'm just sharing the info.
For a pack, not a box.
Correct. Yeah.
And that product doesn't really transact on TCG Player very much. Yeah. I looked before the podcast, and there was one person, presumably one person, bought 3 boxes a couple days ago.
I see that.
But other than that, there's not really much movement on it, and this product mostly transacts in private Discord servers and Facebook groups, and between people who just are still straggling to get their collections, and
Well,
because there is a demand for this product. I know that most people don't want there to be a demand for this product, but
Right.
there was, and
that's what I was getting at there, like asking you, because if they were $1,000 when they came out, the cheapest one today of a box is $1,400 on TCG. It looks like you're right, someone bought the $1,200 ones out a few days ago. Like, does that not speak to the demand being there?
It's getting less and less by the day. I think
It's
that
also
no, go ahead.
it's kind of the thing where like this product is meaningfully limited, right, compared to every other Magic product. And so it does not take a lot of people who want to build sets to make this product have demand that affects the price. But as DJ's saying, it's getting smaller every day because every time somebody gets another Mox for their set of Magic 30 Power 9 or whatever, that's just like 30% of the people who ever are going to want that already have what they want.
Yeah, and the players who are coming into the ecosystem, that is not there at the top of their shopping list at all.
Right.
That was definitely the product for the long time collectors of the game.
And there was demand for it, and
I've seen some chatter is probably the right word from people who were a part of it, who don't think it was received anywhere near as well as Wizards thought it might, which is kind of interesting. Because a lot of people, it's a cash grab, all these negative things that were said about it. I think in reality, Wizards might have actually thought that people would be more into the product than the backlash they got.
I mean, the product is fucking awesome. The backlash is because people want it but couldn't afford it, right?
Exactly.
Like, nobody would care that it was $1,000 if it was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's one of the coolest things I've ever produced. It's just the way they sold it, the way they marketed it.
Yeah.
All of it was a pretty toe-to-tip failure. But like, I got to open a box of it somewhat recently, and it was pretty freaking awesome. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if it was cheaper and you could buy a bunch of it, I probably would have bought a bunch of it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely missed. I mean, the thing is everyone talks about that drew all the headlines. That was not the only anniversary celebration, according to Wizards, right?
I mean, we talked about this last year to the T. Is that like that was not the only headliner of the People were like, "How am I supposed to celebrate the 30th anniversary if it's $1,000?" Well, there were 7 other products announced before it that that just wiped your mind. It was like a dam broke and it flooded into all the neurons of your brain.
It was like a 45-minute stream where they announced things for 45 minutes.
And then they tacked that on in the last 5 minutes and just shot themselves in the foot. But
well, I don't really know if there's I actually think they probably stuck it in the right spot in the thing, right? But
the right spot was a separate stream, to be like, let's be real.
Oh, like, maybe that would have been a smart way to do it.
The right spot was to announce it during like an investor call.
Maybe.
We're releasing $1,000 product, folks. Buy your stocks now.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any implementation that would have gone well with the Magic community. But it is just interesting to look back at all of this. And on that note, the best place to look back at the performance financial information of any card in Magic, or Pokemon for that matter, is MTG Stocks. Generous sponsor of this podcast, best source on the internet for historical Magic information, finance information going back a decade or more. You know it's the best site. You use it, we hope, because we sure do. It gets us everything we needed. MTG Stocks, check out the premium side of that website. We want to thank them for sponsoring this podcast because we're the biggest fans and always have been long before they sponsored us. So shout out to MTG Stocks. Let's move into the next thing here. DJ, you were talking some about secret layers that they have announced. Do we want to touch on that and what the last round is, and is there anything relevant you see in it?
Well, we're still on the firing on the cylinders of the VHS one, and its ilk. That was really the only memorable one from that batch, where it comes with food chain and the first sliver. It's still available. You have a couple weeks left to get it, and it is $30. That is really the only one I'd recommend getting, even just the non-foil. But there was another one announced recently, because that's where we are, and it is another one that is kind of like the VHS one, where it has a couple meaningful cards, and it has a very meaningful reprint in Emrakul the Promised End. A lot of people were wondering why this card was not in Commander Masters. Now we know why. You can get your copy of Emrakul the Promised End, plus some other very well-done John Avon art, and that goes right in your Eldrazi precon that you spent $300 to level up. I do think this is a fine secret lair. We have data behind this that is just like the Ulamog cereal one, the breakfast cereal one, not the serialized one. I cannot emphasize that enough. Think Lucky Charms, not barcode, I guess. But
Emrakul also has the benefit of being a pretty relevant Modern player, and I just recently had to purchase a $50 Emrakul the Promised End to play a Modern event.
Yike.
And I look forward to just like buying this one, having the nice artwork, selling the one I just got to buy the new one, and just calling it a day.
Yeah, the new one, the Emrakul is an incredible commander card. I love that it can make it into other formats. And this is Secret Lair is nice. I mean, outside of the Sarah Angel, everything else is relevant.
If we're doing, I'm going to do my one commander story for the podcast for the year.
Ooh, let's hear it, DJ.
I play my Garth One-Eye deck, the one that is entirely factory sealed promos. It's a monstrosity. It's very fun. But I used a lithoform engine to copy the Mindslaver trigger of this Emrakul, and used one player to kill another player, and then was able to skip that player who died, and then take the other next player's turn to kill the previous player, whose turn I just took.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
You're
sick.
kind of a sicko.
Pretty sick.
Listen, it does not take a lot to get me rock hard for a Mindslaver story.
Yeah, this is also just the most. It's the one that makes people rage quit the least, which is nice. Is if you're someone who likes to play those cards and you want to play them in something that isn't strictly competitive 1v1 Magic, at least this one doesn't make people rage quite as much because you get to give them a turn at the end of it.
Right.
It's like sometimes you use the extra turn in conjunction with them to like take out a stronger player. There's a lot of cool uses to Emrakul, I guess, is the point. For sure. All right, next up, look, we've talked a lot about Magic. We've given you what the people want. We've gone deep on the Magic, on the finance, on the Magic finance. But we want to take a little bit of a break. So we were talking before the cast and realized that, like us, you probably do slightly other games in your life besides Magic. So we're going to just share real quick a little bit like what we've been playing, mainly because Cass is real deep into one. But I've been playing, I've been going back in on Slay the Spire. So maybe I'm still stuck in the card game genre. But what have you been into, Cass?
I've been playing a lot of GeoGuessr lately.
GeoGuessr.
Yeah, it's the game where they just like put you in a random location on Earth
Wait, no,
via
no,
Google Maps.
I know this one. It's the they do the what's that Pokemon screen, and it's just always Geodude, right?
Correct. It's always Geodude. No, it just like puts you in a random location on Earth via Google Maps, and like a lot of things are blurred out. Like if there's a location that's blurred out,
Sure.
I think there's some AI thing, and you have to guess where you are on Earth based on just like scrolling around in Google Maps. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun to just like pick a small country and learn everything about that country so that I get dropped in and within like 3 seconds I can be like, oh yes, of course, I'm in like the Woodward sector of Singapore. So I picked Singapore because it's like a really small country. And I've just like been learning about what street signs look like in different parts of town. And it's a great time killer. I paid money to play it because it has this thing where you can only play for 5 minutes every 15 minutes. I paid them like $20 for a year or whatever. And
To GeoGuess. I had
To
no
GeoGuess,
idea this was a thing.
honestly, it's so fun. And there's some guy who does like streams of it or TikToks of it or something where he just like flashes an image of Google Maps for like half a second. And he's like, based on the grass and the soil, I think that we're in Kansas. And he's just like always right. And I want to be like that guy, but I know I'll never be as good as him. So I just want to be like that guy for Singapore.
That's when you first brought this up, I didn't know if you were talking about there's somebody on TikTok who will either look at a picture or someone will send them a picture and they're like, hey, find out where I am. And just like off of somebody's, 10-second cell phone video. And the guy goes through his entire process of all the very in-depth, blah, 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 and then nails it. No, you're at this location in this state at this time, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, damn, I don't really want to think about any of that being possible. So geoguessing where you are based on your surroundings because you've learned them, that's a much less scary version of geoguessing than what I had in mind.
I think it's the same person. I think it's like Raindrop Bolt or something, but that guy just learned this the same way that I'm trying to. I assume just put in 10,000 more hours than me or whatever.
Yeah, probably.
But he's even talked about like there's been locations that he couldn't find.
Huh.
But I mean, this is as good a time as any to talk about operational security. You know, don't post photos of places that you are while you're still there.
Dang it! Where's our VPN sponsorship?
If there's any VPNs out there that want to sponsor us, let me know. I personally love my VPN of unnamed brand. You can put that in there when they pay us. It's great for getting around government blocks in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. DJ, I know that you're basically a Slay the Spire lifer, but what have you been up to?
I am closing in on being max level in old school RuneScape.
How is that not a thing you were already?
Because it takes roughly 3,000 hours.
Okay.
Depending on the account type you make, but I am closing in on 3,000 hours. I think I'm at like 2,700 or something.
Okay. What do you get at the end? Because Ben and I recently got all the gems in Luigi's Mansion 3, 100%ed them, and it didn't help at all. It gave you one different looking poltergust. It was terrible. So tell me you get something better than that for 3,000 hours in RuneScape. So
there's 27 skills, I think, or 24 skills in the game, and all of them give you like a little cape perk when you max it. Like the archery cape lets you not run out of arrows.
What the hell? You get an actual benefit? A gameplay benefit?
Well, so all of those individual skills have a benefit when you reach max level, and then the max level cape that you wear has all of those benefits. So it's all 20-something skills all in one cape.
That sounds busted.
It's very good.
You just straight up, can you buy it if you don't put in 3,000 hours?
No, there's no microtransactions.
That's a macro transaction right there, friend.
Speaking of Luigi's Mansion and Nintendo games in general, they love to give you just literal nothing for finishing the game. In Breath of the Wild...
Completing the Pokedex, you get a little piece of paper that you can print out on your Game Boy printer, yeah.
Oh, nowadays you get a thing called the Shiny Charm, which doubles your chances of finding shinies. That one's actually sick. But in Breath of the Wild, if you get all 900 Korok seeds, the guy who you give Korok seeds to gives you a trophy that looks like a pile of golden poop. That's your reward for getting all 900 Korok seeds in the overworld.
Yeah, I thought there'd be something cool in Luigi's Mansion. Look, that game's really fun. So we got all the gems. They're all well hidden. It was very enjoyable. So I had a good time. I'm not upset, but come on, do something. Even Mario Kart 64, when you beat all the cups on the hardest difficulty, gives you a different intro screen so that everybody knows you beat that. Okay? That's what Luigi's Mansion should do. Just saying. The solved problem, Nintendo.
Get with the times, Nintendo.
I saw recently they did you all see what they did when they retired the voice of Mario?
They posted an announcement that made me think he was dead.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say they had him do it, announce it, and give him a big send off and everything. Yep. It was just cool as opposed to just being you're old and we replaced you.
I think the dude obviously wanted to stop working, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But now he's a spokesperson for them, which I think just means they're going to pay him to show up every once in a while for the rest of his life, which such a deserved gig. That dude's done a billion voices for that company.
And that's what I mean. They actually are. It's nice. It's not even just you're older, we're replacing you, or cool, you're retired, neato, bye. They're we owe our success to you. We owe a lot of success to you. How do we share it with you? Right. Which is neat.
And people don't realize that he did a ton. He didn't just do Mario. He also was Luigi, Wario. I think did some of the Bowser voices in some of the early games. Just truly a lifetime talent voice actor. And as someone who loves voice acting and respecting the people behind it, they don't get a lot of respect oftentimes, especially from the industry. So it is very cool to see.
Voice acting, if you ever, it's one you don't ever think about it until you actually see someone do voice acting, where they're just talking normal, and then they can just switch to 3 different character voices that are all unique and whatever, right? That's really difficult.
Someone who was honestly excellent at that, who passed away recently, is Lance Reddick. A lot of people know him from his live action acting stuff, but he did a bunch of the voices for Destiny, specifically the general or the admiral. One of the characters who's when you open the game, there's a voice line, and he did a lot of interviews about the process of voice acting and how good directors and bad directors could change everything, because it wasn't just about saying the lines. It was about getting yourself immersed in the world and saying them in the way that character would. It's the same thing as regular acting, just with less visual cues.
But you have to do it all in your head, right?
Right.
And it's one thing, if you think about one of the things I've seen, sort of a longer piece on is the person who does Ash's voice in Pokemon Journeys, the new Pokemon series. So if you think about it, like, she goes in and she's got the studio and she's got however many years of Pokemon to work with, right? But if you're somebody who's going in to record an unknown thing or something for the first time, you might have a little, like, a picture or like a graphic or a hand-drawn board or something, but that's it. That's like all you have. And you have to, like you said, be able to immerse yourself in that. We had nothing more than with what you have. Like, and now I've gone into a studio and read lines before for projects. Like, it's a thing. But yeah, that's why, like, I mean, massive shout out to voice acting.
All of us are voice acting right now. This isn't our real voice. All of us, it's like, true. Corbin's actually deeply, deeply Italian. He masks it very well.
Yeah, I've watched, I've watched a lot of Jurassic Park recently. And there's very clearly a scene in that movie where Alan Grant, who is Sam Neill, it loses his accent, and they kept it in the final cut. Like, and it just hit me so hard. I was watching it. It's like when they're about to go to the pits, and he like yells at him to hurry up or something. It's not even like, it feels like an outtake. It's so undisguised.
Right. I've been watching a lot of B movies recently, a lot of like bad movies, or not the Jerry Seinfeld one. I watched In Time, like the Justin Timberlake, where like your money is the time that's like with left to live.
With what's her name from? Yeah,
that was my favorite movie as a 17-year-old.
Yeah,
Cillian Murphy was the cop, and his American accent was not good yet. It was not good. He's worked on it a lot since then.
I saw that movie when it came out. I didn't realize he was in it at all. Nor do I even really remember anything about it, except that he's really good at turning his hand over.
Yeah. It's really aged weirdly well, because it's like largely about how it doesn't matter how much money you make, they can just make inflation worse and make your lives worse. And it's like, damn.
Yeah.
That movie's it's still very bad. And Justin Timberlake is somehow the best actor in it. But
that's kind of true. Well, I remember walking away from that movie thinking Justin Timberlake was like fine, like perfectly suited to be in movies like that.
It also is responsible for one of my favorite lines, which is, you must come from time. When Justin Timberlake sits down and bets big at the casino table. They leaned into that shit so hard.
That's good. Time is money, baby. You get it? Do you get it, DJ? You see how they turned that sentence into the entire premise
like
of a movie?
15 years ago, and I didn't remember that.
I watched last night. I watched Knights of Badassdom, which I distinctly remember being. It came out after Game of Thrones started, and Peter Dinklage was in the movie, and it's about a bunch of guys who LARP. And there's just straight up Game of Thrones music in this movie. Not good.
Yeah,
probably don't watch it, but like weirdly kind of a dudes rock wholesome movie about some guys who LARP.
Nice. Well, there you go, everybody. Look, what are you gaming at? What are you into? Look, I know we talk a lot of Magic, and we also just kind of go on some random stuff. But I know we all share interests that are not just Magic. So we went pretty deep over the first 30 minutes of the show into some Magic finance as well as what's going on. So we wanted to have some fun. So I thank you all for letting me put you on the spot with that question.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment about one of your games. One random gamer in the comments commenting about their games will win a random game. We're not going to say what it is.
Oh, okay. I like this, DJ. This is good. Keep this going. Put something on this.
I was, and then you stepped on me when I was talking.
No, I'm encouraging this. I want you to up the stakes from a game that we won't tell you. Like, let's put a minimum dollar amount on the Steam gift certificate here.
Whoever posts the coolest game in the YouTube comments, specifically the YouTube comments, will give you a $20 Steam gift card, and the coolest game is chosen strictly by which one I think has the coolest name that I have not heard of. Ooh. It's got to be obscure, too. If I've heard of it, it's off the table.
There you go. Set it in stone, youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery. Cass will judge your submissions on air next week, and one of you will get a gift certificate should you be interested.
That's the cool thing about judging a book by its cover, is it's one of the best ways to tell if it's good or not.
Yes. That's why every book in the 1800s was like a chronicle of time, the life of Jonathan Smith, heir to the Blackian throne of Galdor, and then you have a 17-page title, and then it's like an addendum, and then it keeps going.
Yeah.
The whole book is like gilded, and there's like chiseled stone arches on the front. It's like a pop-up book, but it pops up in stone.
It is ironic, I guess, that that's an idiom, given that books are in fact judged by their cover. It might be the front cover, it might be the back cover, but either way, it might be the inside of the cover even, but either way, it is the cover.
Do you have a fidget spinner, Corbin?
Oh yeah, I do.
Fuck yeah.
We got a pack of 5 because my kid needs them for like their actual intended use of giving him
We were
something
talking about
to...
like the 2013 movie In Time, and Corbin's like, "What else was good then?"
I've just been spinning a poker
Spinners.
chip this whole
I
whole
like business
episode.
cards. I
Yeah,
like
there you
business
go.
cards.
Look, but you're right though. The interesting part about that movie was that at the end of it, it turns out they did in fact have time for everyone. They just weren't sharing it with them. Yeah,
I remember when I
All right.
made my first century.
All right, well, before we get out of here this week, we want to give a shout out to our other sponsor, Coalesce Apparel and Design, where you can go use that gift code Brainstorm Brewery, get 10% off an order, not just of our merch, but of anyone's merch.
Wait,
Are
how
you
long
picking
is...
up what I'm putting down? Because I don't think we've done our picks of the week yet.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
My pick of the week this week is a very unique card in Grist the Hunger Tide.
Love that.
That is one of the most unique Magic cards ever printed.
So this is a couple reasons for this one. One is a card I've talked about a lot already, which is Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Because when you exile Grist to it, all of your creatures gain Grist's loyalty abilities. You obviously can't use the minuses until you've gotten some loyalty counters, but
It's ridiculous.
it also does some stuff with like Metallic Mimic, I think is the changeling lord that puts counters on things with Soul Cauldron.
It is, yes.
Also, it's just a Modern Horizons 2 card, and at some point Modern Horizons 2 does have to go out of print.
Yeah, it's old now. I don't...
Yeah.
Been years, right? So...
That's where I'm at. Love Grist. I think it's one of the coolest cards ever printed. And it kind of scales with the power level of Magic cards printed as creatures get better, and the creatures the things that find creatures get better.
I certainly never considered Grist with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I'll say that. But I guess that works.
It's also very hard to... I don't think you can make an archetype of Grit. You can't follow that up with other cards that do the same thing, because that's like making more partners for Commander. It just breaks things exponentially. You can't just make more Planeswalkers like Grist that are a 2 and a 4 and a 5 that are similar. That is not a touchy...
Yeah. Grist is a really cool, unique card. But as we can see with the Soul Cauldron interaction, it is I don't know if dangerous is necessarily the right word, but like it is just a design space that maybe with the consequences not fully considered forever, so you got to be careful with it. So yeah, that's an interesting one. What are you looking at, DJ?
Mine is I don't know for sure why this card has sold very highly in the past few weeks, but I have a couple hunches. I'm looking at Fate Unraveler. This is a Born of the Gods rare that was only printed one other time in Commander 2015, and the market price has actually dropped down to $2, $2.50 or so. But if you look at the sale history on TCG Player, this card has sold at a direct premium for as high as $8 or $9. And it's I have a suspicion that some of it is because of Orcish Bowmaster, and people are looking at other cards that do very, very powerful things when wheels happen. So I mean, this card itself is not some CEDH All-Star, and it's clearly weaker than Bowmaster, but just scaling power level when your opponent draws a card and just does that game action, and this card it does kill people, especially when you're pairing it with things like Megrim or Leona's Caress. And
every game store has a Nikasaur guy.
Yeah.
What?
Nikasaur, he's a dinosaur.
So this first spiked with Brothers War last year. And spiked hard. I wonder was there an Enchantress deck, or is it more recent than that? I don't know.
I mean, there was an Enchantress deck with Commander Masters, and then Eldraine was like a pretty enchantment heavy set.
That's making it go up again, but like it hard spiked with Brothers War last year after 7 years of being 50 cents to $1. So I don't know. Maybe it was just
or was it a delayed reaction to New Sheoldred?
That's like I said. There's a lot of different Like it was, it ran up. So something happened because it went a very long time being worth basically nothing. And this was a card I remember we talked about on this podcast when freaking Born of the Gods came out, because it was Underworld Dreams, and Underworld Dreams was like a $5 card at the time.
I'll chip in an honorary Jason bit here and look at the EDH rec page for the card. It is also very, very popular in the most recent version of Obnixilis Captive Kingpin. That is the one that cares when your opponent loses exactly 1 life. So when this card is in play, even if your opponent draws 5 cards, they take 5 instances of 1 life damage, and then Obnixilis just does a lot of silly things. It sees play in 36% of Starscream decks, 85% of Saison Preserver of Truth decks, and that is a card that very recently went from like $30 to 30 cents.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
this all kind of checks out.
Factors here. And I think that this is a very good pickup at $250-ish, because clearly if copies have sold on direct for 7 or 8, there's room for people to pay that consistently.
Great.
Yeah, it definitely is it's an enchantment creature, not super easy to reprint. It was in Commander 2015, was its only reprint, and that was obviously forever ago. So yeah, there's not going to be a lot of copies of this card out there floating around. Okay, I'll wrap things up with a Kamigawa Neon Dynasty card. This is something we talked about a ton when the set came out, and it started to climb up recently. I think it may be standard related. We'll see. But Kodama of the West Tree. This was not the Commander one. It's not any of the old ones. This is a reach 3/3 for 3 in green. Modified creatures you control trample whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield. So this is a $10 card right now, and it was about $8-9 for a while. Is climbing up. So I think that it's a mythic from Neon Dynasty, which was however long ago. It's likely to be 15 before it is 5, is the way I'm looking at this. And who knows if it's some... I can't say if this is actually a standard card or not, or Pioneer or whatever. But any actual tournament success will accelerate that trend even faster.
I think this card is honestly just like such a good rate for what it does, and it's so powerful. And again, it fairly small supply relative to what I think is potentially high demand ceiling. Super into this pick.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
didn't
kind
even
of
realize
card I
it
want
cost
to
this much.
take back in time and show Henry Kissinger so he has a heart attack and dies.
I don't think that this would really register with him.
That was
He might be a Magic player.
That was a really good subversion of expectations on that meme, DJ. Well done.
That dude hung out with Nixon a bunch, right? Like, he has to have seen worse shit than this.
I don't know, Cass. It's a 3/3 for 3 with upside. Okay, upside.
Trained Armadon with upside. Whoa! Tactical nukes.
Do they print Magic cards? Do they print Magic cards in Cambodian?
With that, this has been Brainstorm Brewery. I am your host, Cass, joined by Corbin and DJ, our wonderful sponsors, MTG Stocks, EDH Rec, kind of, Coalesce Apparel and Design. Probably shouldn't include the one that's not actually a sponsor before the one that is a sponsor, but that's fine. See you next week, folks. Bye!
See ya, everybody.